Okay, let's be real. If you've ever spent way too long just staring at a low-privilege shell, you know exactly how frustrating privilege escalation can be. Well, we're about to break down how to turn all that chaotic guesswork into a sharp, repeatable skill.
And this right here, this is the brutally honest confession that kicks off our entire explainer today. It's a feeling that I bet so many of us in this field know all too well. You get the shell, you're in, and then you're just stuck. See, this isn't about not knowing enough exploits. It's about not having a reliable process when it counts.
And this is the cost of that chaos. 90 minutes, an hour and a half, just chasing ghosts, trying random exploits, and basically just hoping for a lucky break after you've got that initial foothold. It's a massive time sink, and honestly, it feels awful.
Now, what if you could shrink that whole process down to just 15 minutes? This is the promise of a disciplined approach. It's not about some magic trick. It's about having a system that leads to repeatable, confident progress every single time. The difference is just staggering.
And this quote, this gets right to the heart of it. On classic lab machines like Kioptrix, the real challenge isn't about a lack of knowledge. It's a lack of discipline. The box is literally designed to reward a clean, methodical process and punish sloppy habits. And that's exactly what we're here to fix.
So let's dive into the first major mistake, and trust me, it's a big one. It's that temptation to skip the, quote, boring part, the initial enumeration, and just jump straight to the exciting stuff. This is where so much time just vanishes.
And this just nails the problem perfectly. The mistake is chasing that silver bullet, right? That one-shot root exploit the second you get a shell. But the fix? The fix is to treat your first 5 minutes on the box like a pit stop in a race. It's a quick, checklist-driven scan to figure out where you are before you even think about where you're going to go.
And look at how simple this checklist is. We're not talking about running some massive, noisy script here. It's just about asking the most basic questions. Who am I? What system is this? What can I do with sudo? You'd be amazed how often these simple checks reveal the path of least resistance long before you ever need to think about a kernel exploit. All right, so let's group the next few mistakes together. Now, these aren't about skipping steps. They're about misinterpreting the evidence that you've already gathered. These are those little errors in judgment that send you sprinting down the completely wrong path.
So you've done your initial scan. Now you're at a crossroads. Is the path to root some flashy, complex CVE that needs a very specific exploit? Or is it something way simpler? A basic human error, a misconfiguration just sitting there waiting for you to find it? On these older lab machines, I can tell you the answer is almost always the simpler one.
I absolutely love this phrase from the source, the Museum of Valuable Pain. It just perfectly describes these labs. They're designed to teach you to look for those classic, simple mistakes. Things like weak permissions, passwords left in config files, services that were set up carelessly. Chasing a modern CVE here, it's like trying to find a smartphone in an ancient history exhibit. You're in the wrong place.
And this is such a subtle but incredibly powerful mindset shift. When you find a password, the mistake is to just try it on SSH and then give up if it fails. The fix is to see that password as a clue in a much bigger story. What service did it belong to? Which user runs that service? Where else might that password have been reused? You see, context is everything.
Okay, on to our final big mistake. This is what happens when you've decided an exploit is the answer, but you treat it like it's some kind of magic wand instead of the precision tool it's supposed to be.
Oh man, we've all been here. You find an exploit online, you copy it to the target, you compile it, you run it, and you just pray it works. That's the magic trick approach, and let me tell you, it is incredibly fragile. The professional approach is a pre-flight check, a quick, systematic verification before you execute any code that could crash the system or just waste your time.
And here's what that pre-flight check looks like. Simple questions, right? Does the kernel version actually match the exploit? Is it the right architecture, 32-bit or 64-bit? Do I even have a compiler in this box to begin with? Can I test this in a way that won't totally break anything? Asking these questions turns a complete gamble into a calculated move.
So, we've walked through the 5 major mistakes. Now let's put it all together. Let's build a consolidated, actionable solution that you can literally use on your very next lab.
This is the playbook, and it's a sequence, not just a random menu of options. Notice the order. We start with identity and context. Then we check for the easy wins with sudo and scheduled tasks. After that, we scan for file system weaknesses, like SUID binaries. You know, that's set user ID, files that run with the owner's permissions, and any writable paths. We hunt for credentials, and only at the very end, after we have all this intelligence, then we pick our path.
And this just illustrates the hierarchy of choices perfectly. You should always look for the green path first. These are the low-hanging fruit, the easy stuff, like weak pseudo rules or writable cron jobs. If that's a dead end, okay, then you move to the yellow path, abusing an SUID binary that you've carefully tested. The red path, a full-blown kernel exploit, that should always be your absolute last resort.
You know, this single sentence just captures the entire mindset shift. Stop hunting for a piece of code and start trying to understand the system. Ask yourself, who owns this process? What is this user actually allowed to do? When you start hunting for the owner, you find the logic of the system. And that, my friends, is where the real vulnerabilities are hiding.
Ultimately, your brain is the best tool you have. The ultimate exploit isn't some script you download. It's a disciplined thought process. Thinking slowly and methodically at the start lets you execute with incredible speed and confidence later on. That is how you get reliable wins.
And that brings us to the end of this explainer. Look, the goal here isn't just to learn something new, it's to actually act on it. So take a second and think about your own habits. Based on everything we've covered today, what is the single sloppiest pattern that you are going to consciously fix the next time you land on a target? Because that is where real progress begins.